you. Perfect. Okay, great. I was having some technology issues yesterday, so I'm grateful when technology works. So yay. Okay, so we're going to keep this short and sweet for today. I think we'll be done about 12:30 or so. And oh boy, see, now there we go. Okay, a little bit slow. If you've never been to the St. Jude Wellness Center, we are on Imperial Highway in Brea. We are in the same building as the PT, so physical therapy, occupational therapy. So we basically have a lot of different services here to complement your overall health journey. We do lots of great and really nourishing things for the body. We have massage, we have Reiki, we have acupuncture, we have breath work. We have a whole line of different medical fitness groups that are certified. So, if you ever feel like there's just kind of a piece missing when it comes to your health, the Wellness Center is a really wonderful place. And I feel lucky to be here. Now, we are going to talk about SIBO, which actually stands for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Now, if we were to look at, this is a picture here of the outside is the large intestine, and then the inside is the small intestine. So when you eat, first your food goes into your stomach, and then after that, it goes into your small intestines. After it spends quite a bit of hours in your small intestines, it then goes into your large intestines. Now, it actually spends the longest amount of time in your large intestines because this is where all of your water is absorbed. There's a lot of fermentation that goes on here in order to feed the healthy bacteria, and it's the way that we produce fatty acids to help absorb vitamins and minerals. And so most of our microbiome, not all of it, but a majority of most of the bacteria is found in our large intestines. Now, SIBO is a condition in which there is overgrowth in the small intestines. And that can become a problem because there's a lot of symptoms associated with SIBO. So if you ever eat food and you notice just immediate bloating, so you feel like kind of an abdominal distension, that's actually one of the biggest telltale signs that you're having overgrowth in your small intestines. And we really should not be producing, gas. There should be no fermentation happening in the small intestines. So if you have like tons of gas, and if it's like, unfortunately, really stinky gas, that could be a sign of overgrowth in the small intestines. If there's a lot of burping after meals, sometimes with acid reflux can also occur. Some of my clients, even if the lining of your digestive system is really compromised, and we'll talk about why that could happen. A lot of my clients start having lots of inflammation, even joint pain, histamine intolerance. And there's lots of different types of dysbiosis that can occur, but we're just talking about one very specific one today, and that is SIBO. Now, what are the root causes? Well, there's lots of them, and it's hard to, most of us take, antibiotics if we need to. A lot of us have other unaddressed health issues, whether it's autoimmune issues or thyroid issues. Even specific incidences of food poisoning can cause certain toxins to change basically the bacteria in our small intestines. And then I've also seen that if you have been on a long-term acid reflux medication, that can really set the stage for SIBO as well, because what it does is it really suppresses your stomach acid creation. And we tend to think of stomach acid as bad when in fact it is so important and so necessary for beginning the proper breakdown of protein and your other macronutrients, that a lot of times food enters the small intestines and it's not completely digested to the point that it needs to be, and so it causes a lot of bacterial growth that wouldn't happen otherwise. So a lot of you may have had treatments in the past for SIBO, but one of the most important things is you can go through SIBO treatment after SIBO treatment, and we'll talk about what that looks like. But if you don't fix the root cause, then it'll keep happening. So if you're someone that constantly has gut issues, but you're having wine every night, that could be disrupting your microbiome. If you have not figured out, physical ways to help to buffer stress from your body, that's also going to cause change in your microbiome. Now, in order to be tested for SIBO, typically you have to be referred to a gastroenterologist. Sometimes there are other doctors that might order a SIBO breath test for you, but typically it's through a gastroenterologist. Essentially what they do is they have you drink a specific type of liquid with carbohydrates in there, and what they want to see is a fermentation of these carbohydrates. So you drink this liquid, and there's a couple of different types of gases that can be created. There's a hydrogen gas that can be created or a methane-based gas that can be created. So here you can see a positive test result for a hydrogen gas production. So you see here from about 30 to 60 minutes, there's a quite significant increase of hydrogen detected in the breath. And then, within about 2 hours, we start to see it decrease. On this bottom chart here, we see also an increase in methane. So just a slight decrease in methane or increase in methane. So really, unfortunately, there's lots of carbohydrates that our body could be reacting to. So what do we do about it? Well, if you get a positive SIBO breath test, typically what we start with is, and not all practitioners do this, I will say every practitioner operates a little bit differently. Some practitioners don't do the diet portion and they just do the bacterial kill-off portion. And then, we try to fix the root issues. Some medical doctors might do just antibiotics and then send you on your way. But here's what I do. And like I said, everyone's a little bit different. Typically the first part of the protocol is to choose a diet. So there's typically two main diets that we use for SIBO. One of them is called a low FODMAP diet. So FODMAP might sound familiar to you if you've ever suffered from GI issues. A lot of times people will do their own research and then they put themselves on a low FODMAP diet for like months. And really that's not the intention of the diet. But what the intention of the diet is to remove specific types of carbohydrates that have specific types of chains. So FODMAP stands for fermentable, oligosaccharide, disaccharide, monosaccharide, and polyols, which are short chain carbohydrates that the small intestines absorbs poorly. And with the increased amount of bacteria in the small intestines, that's where you're getting all the fermentation, which is causing burping and bloating and gas. So let me show you, let me see if I can. Okay, can you guys see this FODMAP diet handout?
Yes, I can.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so this is essentially following a low FODMAP diet. There are carbohydrates that you need to avoid for a short period of time. It doesn't mean you need to do it forever. It doesn't mean these foods are bad for you. It just means with the types of carbohydrate chains that are in here, it could be reacting with the overgrowth of bacteria in your small intestines. And then it does have a list of carbohydrates that you can enjoy. Typically, it does not cause fermentation and issues. So you can see here that asparagus might possibly, with the breakdown and digestion of it, kind of feed that bacteria in the small intestines, whereas, a veggie like bok choy doesn't do the same thing. Now, I'm still going to recommend, if you've gone through a low FODMAP diet, don't cut these out forever. It's really, there's a lot of really important fruits and vegetables in here. I'm going to show you another method that sometimes people will do to treat SIBO. This one is called the SIBO biphasic diet. It's very similar to low FODMAP, but there's two distinct phases. This one's a little bit more restricted, or actually I should say the opposite. This one does let you eat more veggies. It's just a little bit restricted with how much you eat. So in the low FODMAP diet, if you remember, like it said, avoid all asparagus, whereas this one says, okay, you can limit yourself, you can have one spear. So this one's more dose dependent. And then in phase 2 is where you can kind of start adding back other fruits and vegetables that you had previously taken out. And then sometimes, depending on your reactions, you have to spend a little bit more time in this. And then there's some notes here that kind of can help to guide you on other things to avoid. Once again, this is all temporary. It's never meant to be a permanent solution to your gastrointestinal distress. So that's the first part. That is the diet that's avoiding certain carbohydrates that cause fermentation in the small intestines. Now, the second part that I do is an antimicrobial, and microbial is just a bacteria that we kill in the gut. If you meet with a medical doctor, typically they would put you on at least 1 or 2 rounds of antibiotics. A lot of times people have reactions to antibiotics, so for some people it's not the best route to go. I myself am a fan of using the herbal approach, and you can actually use certain herbs to help to kill this unwanted bacteria. So for a methane dominant type SIBO, you can use something called allicin, which is a type of sulfur component found within garlic. You can use oregano, which we use, as an herb in cooking, but in therapeutic higher amounts, it can actually help to kill overgrowth. And then we also use something called neem. Neem is an extract from a plant, and so it can also help with that. Now, if you have a hydrogen production SIBO, then we can use a plant extract called berberine. Berberine, once again, is a plant. It kind of has like a reddish orangey tinge. And then we can use oregano and then neem. And those have actually shown to be quite effective with killing the overgrowth. The next thing that I would do, hold on, I'm just going to make sure everyone's muted. The next thing that we could do is typically I like to support my clients with a little bit of die-off support. So a lot of times if we have a lot of bacteria that we're killing in the digestive system, then I like to provide some other herbs to kind of help attach to those toxins and get them out of the body. If you have a lot of die-off happening, it means it's working, but a lot of times people will have kind of like, more brain fog, more aches and pains, more, you feel more lethargic. Now, okay, these, I would say, even if you do not have SIBO, these are all really important things that you can do to support your digestion. So one of the most important things you can do is prevent SIBO by doing these things. So, but specifically for my SIBO clients, I always have to make sure you're having at least one really well-formed bowel movement every day, and even up to 2 to 3 times a day. Now, if they're loose bowels, that tells us that there are still some digestion things going on, maybe some fat malabsorption because you don't have enough enzymes or bile. But prokinetics basically means supplements to help to move things along. The other thing that you can do if you ever experience constipation would be, if you look down here at the bottom, is to do a clockwise abdominal massage. It's a great physical technique that you can use essentially to make sure your bowels are moving through. Okay, now we're having technological issues. Well, we'll see if we can get back to that. I'll try to open up another copy. Let's see. Okay, that's okay. I also have it. Here we go. This is my little cheat sheet that I use for this process. So here, okay, we talked about the prokinetics. Enzymes might be really important if you're living a hustle and bustle life, as a lot of people are doing, or you have other health issues that you're dealing with and you notice that your digestion is less than stellar. Enzymes might be a helpful way to make sure that you're breaking down your food and absorbing it to the best of your ability. If you have iron deficiency, if you have vitamin D deficiency, if you have vitamin B12 deficiency, these are all signs and symptoms that your absorption may not be optimal, and enzymes could be helpful. I also typically give a spore-based probiotic. Now my whole screen is blacking out. A spore-based probiotic. Spore-based means it has a type of endosperm that helps to protect the probiotic from essentially being broken down in the stomach by stomach acid. So it's a nice hearty probiotic that can make its way to your small intestines. And then micronutrient depletion essentially means if you are deficient in any nutrients, which a lot of people are, then we work on, maybe we'll add in a nice comprehensive multivitamin. A lot of times people feel a little bit more energetic when they do that because they're getting more nutrients. Then the next thing that I do is something called vagus nerve support. And let me go back. Let me just see if I can open my... Try one more time. I want you to be able to see the vagus nerve. Maybe, there we go. Okay. So the vagus nerve is essentially a nerve that is in your parasympathetic nervous system. Your parasympathetic nervous system is responsible for your rest and for your digestion. So if you have a hard time segueing from your sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight and hustle and bustle, and you have, poor sleep or poor digestion, we really need to focus on getting you into your parasympathetic nervous system. So let me show you. There's a technique that I use with my clients called vagal toning, which is essentially doing a number of activities that can help to stimulate the vagus nerve. And your vagus nerve is located kind of like in your throat region. So a lot of activities involving, your voice, things like humming, singing, chanting have all been shown to help to stimulate your vagus nerve. And then even things like meditation, yoga, fish oil actually is something that can help with your vagus nerve. Probiotics, there's a lot of different things. So if you Google vagal toning or vagus nerve, just look for a list of activities that can help to support your rest and digestion mode. Because a lot of times when we're not doing that, that's where I see low stomach acid, low enzyme production, maybe poor bile creation, and that all affects how well we're able to break down our food. And then if we can't break down our food, a lot of times that's when we see the overgrowth happening. The other thing that can really help with digestion are bitter foods. So any foods that contain any kind of bitterness helps to trigger the production of stomach acid and enzymes. So if you think about it, there's a lot of cultures throughout time who have daily meal rituals that incorporate something that's a little bit bitter. So, maybe starting your meal with like a chopped, arugula salad. Arugula is pretty bitter. Or a lot of other cultures have like a post meal drink that maybe contains licorice or other plants or herbs that can help with the digestion process. There's also a company called Urban Moonshine that actually creates a tonic of a lot of different bitter components from herbs and foods that can be helpful with digestion. You know, typically what I recommend is putting a dropper full of the bitters into water before you eat and then drinking it. Let's go back. Okay. Oh, and then I'm a huge proponent of magnesium. Magnesium is a mineral that most of my clients are deficient in. You can get it from dark green leafy vegetables, nuts and seeds. You can get it also from dark chocolate. So if you're a dark chocolate lover, it does have some magnesium. I like taking Epsom salt baths at night. You do absorb some of the magnesium because Epsom salts, and if you like baths, do not buy the spa Epsom salt because they typically put synthetic fragrance and a lot of other add-ins. Just buy the plain Epsom salt, nothing else added. And Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate. So it's a great way to get a little bit more magnesium, which is great for the nervous system. And then lastly, there is something in the body called your migrating motor complex. This essentially is, so every 90 minutes, there is a wave of muscle contractions within all of the muscles within our digestive system. So small intestines, the stomach, the large intestines, that actually help to move food along. And so if you're constantly grazing, you're constantly snacking, it essentially does not ever allow your small intestines to be free of food. So kind of just keeps feeding that bacterial overgrowth. So if you do not suffer from, blood sugar issues, I know that if some people wait more than 3 hours to eat, they start getting, low blood sugar. So you have to do what is intuitively best for you. But if you can, wait to eat every 4 to 5 hours to allow for the peristalsis to help to move food along, that could actually change your microbiome as well. Okay, and actually that was it because the only other slides I had on there were about the vagal toning and the bitter food. So right now, I actually would love to open up the floor for some questions. Like I said, this was kind of a fast and furious topic today. So if you have anything you'd like to ask, either type it in the chat or feel free to unmute yourself. And maybe you need a second to kind of think about what your burning questions might be. I know this was, yes, hi.
My name's Robert. I've had SIBO for 3.5 years, and I've spent so much money on over-the-counter items, but I've also had a spinal injury recently, and I'm a paraplegic that can move. So I don't know if that was part of the problem. I'm a quadriplegic that can move. I actually go PT at the facility, and I do drink alcohol at night.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be a big problem? Because I've saw gastrologist after gastrologist, and this has not gone away, and it actually makes my muscle spasms worse when my stomach is gassy.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I mean, I love wine as much as the next person. But yeah, like if this is something that you're just not able to kick, alcohol is not going to ever help to improve it. So that might be something you can consider either cutting out for a period of time and then going through, maybe a round of treatment. And some people just seem to be a little bit more susceptible. So they really have to learn to kind of identify the things that tend to bring the SIBO back. Also, I wanted to share before I forget, there is a doctor in Fullerton. She actually is an MD, but she practices integrative health. I want to show you her, let's see, SIBO. Her name is Dr. Rajri. I'm not going to play it, but I just want you to be able to see her name. She's also a great resource for, oh gosh, well now that's not working. Let me try again. Her name is Dr. Rajri Namboodrapad. I will type her name in here.
I also did the physician's diet, elementary diet for 12 days, and it seemed to help. But at the 12th day, everything came back. So they told me to stop doing it.
Well, if you don't, did you do a round of antibiotics?
I did that first 3 years ago, and that didn't seem to help.
Okay,
And
so
again,
typically,
I wasn't drinking alcohol this whole time. There was like 3 months where I didn't drink anything, but it was still a problem.
yeah. So if you don't have the diet plus the killing off the bacteria plus all of the other foundational factors, I will say it's very easy for it to come back. So I'm so sorry that you've been going through this. It can be a tough thing to treat. So you know, here's who I wanted to show you. Hold on one second. She might be someone that you could reach out to. I did type her name in the chat box. I would like you to watch her video. It's a little bit more comprehensive than mine. But she essentially goes over a lot of the same information that I did. And she's a great resource to have. And so she might be maybe your next, doctor that you could try.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. So sorry that you've been going through that. Okay, so I have a question here. Let me address some of the questions from the chat box. Okay, so I have a question. What